what do they think of when they hear the name Cullman? Because we all know there was a day when people hear the name Cullman, it meant something different. And I feel like that's changing. We're all standing on someone else's shoulders, and now I want people to stand on mine. We don't put a lot of those things out there that we do. I'll put it out now. We've never mentioned this.
What's it like hanging out with Kid Rock? I gotta know this.
Man.
This is like a trip.
When I worked at Louisiana Pacific and I lived in Hanceville with my grandma when I was poor, I had no haters. If you're gonna be successful at all, you're going to have people talk negatively about you.
Welcome back to the Cullman Daily Podcast. This week we have a special guest, Shane Quick, joining us. He's the owner of Rock the South and concerts all over America. He's local and he got a start right here in Cullman and still lives in Cullman and calls Cullman home. We also have Jacob Gibbs, who's a friend of Shane's that worked with him all the way back in the days at LP in Hanceville. So we're going to start talking about the backstory of where Rock the South began, where it's at now, and Shane's company, Premier Productions, how they grew into what they are today. So welcome in Shane and Jacob. Appreciate you guys being here.
Be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Shane, to start with, let's get started on your background and kind of how you got started in music, where you began. I know you went to Hanceville High School and how you got your start.
I actually drove by my old house a couple of days ago. We were one block from Hanceville High School, right there on Self Avenue. But I grew up in Hanceville. Music's always been a part of my life. My mother was a Southern gospel singer, and my brother played guitar, and I was in high school band and a bunch of garage bands. So music was just always a big part of my life, and although, I always say I grew up on my dad's music from the 60s and 70s, my brother's music from the 80s, and I found my own, in the 90s. But I just love music. And, just born and raised there, really kind of had a rough childhood, a lot of drugs and alcohol in our home. It was a pretty rough upbringing, and my grandmother, Lenny, May, basically raised me and my brother. We had our local church. We had, my youth pastor, and had a lot of people that were there for me, a lot of families. It's the beauty of a small town. You've got neighbors, coaches, youth pastors, and neighbors that kind of look out for you, teachers. Yeah. It was, I had a lot of people that invested in me and made me who I am.
Yeah, to me, that's kind of one of the coolest stories about Rock the South, because it started with somebody, you being here in the community. You didn't grow up with all the resources and everything that some other people have, but hard work and community support over the years is what made everything into reality of what it is today, and concerts all over America.
Oh, yeah. I mean, back when we worked at LP, it was always tickets will cost me this will cost this. I got to have this insurance policy in case it rains. It was just, that's all he was thinking. That was always on your mind, wasn't it? I mean, I always say this about Shane. He had a dream and he made it come true. I mean, there's no other way around that, Yeah, it worked for it and got it.
That's the thing about, I think, anybody that's had any kind of success at all. There's a whole list of people that help make it happen.
Yeah.
And nobody gets, there's no self-made people, in my opinion, and all good things come from the Lord. So even if you did do it by yourself, I mean, God's still the reason why we have what we have, all good things. Grew up in that house and one block from Hanceville High School, and I was horrible. I was a horrible student. I hated school so bad. I was such a dreamer. My head's always been in the clouds. Just building things, new ideas. I loved, my alone time. My youngest son is that way. Just drawing ideas and thinking about, new things to build. And I've always been that way. Kind of got me through a lot of hard times, just kind of living in my dreams. But when I was 15 years old, lost my brother, Chris, in a construction accident. He was 23 years old, and that was really a very pivotal moment in my life that kind of shaped me, and really poured fuel on the fire of trying to make something out of my life, trying to make it a positive impact on my family and my community and people. And I wouldn't be where I am today, without Chris. And I love that we're actually in the Chris Quick building, as we're doing this podcast. But but Chris's death really kind of gave me a calling. Chris got saved at a Christian concert when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And just seeing the positive impact that events can have. Like with Rock the South, it's more economic. It's more people coming together and, escapism and things like that, But we are still the largest producer of Christian concerts in the world. We'll do well over 1,000, Christian concerts. A lot of local people don't know that. Mm-hmm. They just think we just do Rock the South, and they don't know that we work with all the worship bands and the Casting Crowns and the Hillsongs and the Bethels and Elevation and people like that. We own Winter Jam, one of the owners of Winter Jam. But we love for people to leave better than when they came.
Yeah.
That's why the charities have always been a big thing for Rock the South, and reminding people to not drink and drive, and to remind people of Kurt's story and all the different charities. Rock the South is a labor of love because it's home. There's people that don't like it, and there's a lot of people that do like it, and there's a lot of people that don't like it that we'll see this weekend there, and people just like to talk, I think, a lot of times, but because you live here, you have to kind of deal with it,
Yeah, for sure.
And there's always a lot of assumptions.
Mm-hmm.
They think you grew up rich, or you grew up with a silver spoon in your mouth, and I'm proud to say I didn't. I'm proud to say that I although my family is a rough upbringing and there's a lot of drugs in our house, they worked their butts off.
Yeah.
And they taught me how to work.
After high school, you went into work at LP at Hansville.
Did. Yeah. So when I dropped out of high school, when Chris got killed, I dropped out of school. They were raising me, my grandmother was raising me, and I wanted to work. I wanted to pay my own way. So when I turned 16, I dropped out, and had a couple odd and end jobs. I worked at Lowe's. I worked at Kmart. I worked at SCI and Arab. Was probably the worst job I ever had.
Really?
Oh, it was horrible. It was just a hard place to work. But when I got old enough, I turned 18 years old. I was lucky enough to get a job at Louisiana Pacific in Hansville, and helped me kind of, start my life, start my family, and start paying my bills and get a house and all those things, and taught me how to work hard too.
Yeah.
I mean,
oh yeah, that was a great group of people.
Great people.
I mean, they were supportive of you. When I actually started down there, I thought, if this is the real world, this is going to be all right.
Right.
'Cause
Totally.
everybody was for each other. I mean, like they did.
Yeah,
didn't
it was
they?
a family.
Yeah,
it was a huge
it really
family.
was.
Kevin Campbell and so many people there. David, David McGowan,
Keith Smith.
Keith Smith,
and lots and very intelligent people too. That was like, like Keith and them.
oh, there was
they're-
brilliant people.
I mean, they are. They're geniuses.
They were, and
Yeah.
they were supportive of me. There's days where I miss that place.
Oh, I know it, dude. I do too.
I really do.
Sometimes,
It's the camaraderie was so incredible, and how we poked at each other constantly.
Oh, it was fun. I mean, like
I learned
you always
so many
heard,
one-liners, man. Go head to head with me on one-liners from what I learned at that factory.
we were throwing dad jokes back then.
Oh, big time. Yeah, a lot of them you can't repeat, definitely on this podcast. But yeah, Louisiana Pacific was kind of my college. I made a post about it a couple years ago about how I went to the University of Louisiana Pacific and I learned how to work there. I learned how to manage my money there. And it's so loud. I always tell people it's so loud in there where a lot of times you couldn't have a conversation with people. And so it was kind of a heaven on earth for me because I love to be in my own thoughts. I'm an introvert, You'd never think that with being a promoter, but I do enjoy my alone time. My 2-hour drive to Nashville and 2 hours back is really one of my favorite parts of my day. Being alone kind of refuels me. And gives me enough fuel to be around people, I think. But yeah, anyway, the job allowed me to dream and think and plan and read. I read a book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. That book changed my life. Getting control of your thoughts and your time and making a covenant with other people about your ideas and your dreams and telling other people about it. That book rocked my world. And I always tell people to read that book. But that was how I started it. I was able to save up enough money to start figuring out how to be a concert promoter and put shows together. Did a lot of little local shows at your Dodge City, storm shelter and the storm shelter in Good Hope and all these little small places. Our church, Cullman High School auditorium. I brought a band called Adelaida there in the late '90s. They were a local band that was on 107 The X. And just learning, losing money, making money, losing money, and just kind of trying it out. And then I was lucky enough to land on a brand new band called Casting Crowns and became their promoter, their first promoter. And that was really the band that kind of launched me out of the factory.
So how did, with Casting Crowns, how did that connection happen, or how did you get in with Casting Crowns?
I had two people. So my best friend, Jared Jackson, told me, and Jared's given me a lot of ideas over the years on who to book. He just has a good ear. And I listened to Jared about Casting Crowns. They had one song on the radio called "If We Are the Body," and there was only one radio station in America playing that song, and it was Birmingham. Mm-hmm. So just you think about the odds of that.
That's wild. I had no clue. That was like back in the day. At my old church, that was one of the first things we learned to do a drama to. Definitely. Was that song.
Yeah. If We're the Body.
I had no clue that song started
my whole career.
Wow.
Yeah. And so a guy named Justin Brown at WDJC also I had built a relationship with him. I'd done a lot of pre-work, before Casting Crowns. Yeah. I'd gone to Nashville 10 times, and there were people that were trying to help me and meeting agents, meeting radio station people. Ronnie Bruce was trying to help me. And there were just so many people for me. And then when Casting Crowns, came to Birmingham and they were playing that song, Justin Brown called me. So I was like, man, this must be what I need to do. And I'd saved up, I think, like $5,000 at the time. And I booked Casting Crowns with that money. They were $2,500. And I booked them and took my first big swing as a promoter at a church in Birmingham with Casting Crowns. And we put it on sale and it immediately sold out. And then we put a second show, a matinee show, on sale, and it immediately sold out. So my first two shows were two sellouts. And, it was such a huge blessing. Literally, those two shows paid me more money than I would make in a whole year at the factory. And I just remember thinking this could be a business. At the time, I just loved it. I still love it. I still love it like a hobby and it's not work to me. It doesn't feel like work. I enjoy it so much. It's a calling. It's what I'm good at naturally. But that was the show that showed me that it could be a business too. And then I started putting in offers for the band to play all over the Southeast. It just happened so fast. But it took years to get to that point. I knew at 15 years old I wanted to be a concert promoter. But it was until I was 22 or 23 years old where I really got the true opportunity to do it.
It seems like that's how a lot of businesses, they have that similar story of where they've been trying for years to do something and they've been preparing and they finally get the opportunity. And because they're prepared, that's when they take off.
Exactly.
And that's why people say they're an overnight success. But in reality, it's been years. It's been years of work. And other people call that luck.
You had dreamed about Rock the South
forever.
You had, way before it came up. I mean, he was always talking about country festivals and.
Well, with Rock the South, it's just kind of common sense that North Alabama needed a country music festival. I mean, just look at the people here. We love country music, and that was just kind of common sense. But Cullman was dry. You can't have a country music festival without beer. It's just you just can't. I mean, it doesn't make sense. It's like going to church without a Bible. It's just part of it. But this area needed to go wet, and I've always said too, it needed to have a reason. Like I said, everything we do needs to have some kind of reason. Premier Productions' tagline was, events that move the soul. So the thousands of events that we do around the world, they kind of have a reason. Either raising money for World Vision or Compassion International, which we normally feed around 10 to 20,000 kids a year. We sponsor 10 to 20,000 kids around the world for food and clothing and education and clean water. So it's a thing something a lot of people don't know that we do as well. People always say, if you sometimes, I know Cullman Daly's been bashed about this, about boasting about your good deeds. But I think it's inspirational. I think people need to know, and like I said, we don't put a lot of those things out there that we do. There's something I'll put it out now. We've never mentioned this, but since Rock the South in 2011, almost every single year we've buried people around the country that died in a tornado. Last year there was a young man that I think it was in Kentucky, where a tree fell on his house and him and his girlfriend both died. The tree killed him and his girlfriend. He was 20 years old, and he was trying to save his girlfriend's life, but it actually killed both of them. And they didn't have money for a funeral, and we just really believe that that's a great way to honor somebody is by giving that family a funeral instead of just cremating them and not allowing them all to come together. But I bet you we've buried 20 or 30 people. Wow. Since
I had
the
no idea about that.
They're haters. That's where some of the money goes, right there.
Yeah.
It's like it's anybody's business anyway.
It's but it does, those things fuel you to be able to handle some of that hate and some of the, the keyboard warriors.
Because you know why you're doing it.
I know why I'm doing it. Yeah. I know why I get up every day and do what we do.
Yeah, and that's kind of the way I look at it too. I mean, all I got to know is what my intention behind what we're doing is. What we're trying to do is a good thing, and people can say whatever they want.
Totally. And we've made mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody has, and we're not proud of those, but we try to learn from them and keep going. But we do love Cullman too, man. I could live. I don't, not saying this to brag, but I could live anywhere in the world. I could live in Rome. I could live in Paris. I could live in Miami. I could live in L.A. But I live here because I love Cullman, and my people are here. The people that love me and supported me, they live here. And I loved Cullman High School for my boys. I'm 2 hours from Nashville. We love Smith Lake. I love the Warehouse District. I love the city, and I'm going to die here. And if that means I have to put up with a handful of people on Facebook, it's worth it. You know what I mean? It's because I know why we do what we do, and we like to. It's a business too. At the end of the day, a lot of times they say, "You just do this to pad your pocket." I'm like, "Yeah, that's my job. This is how I pay my bills. This is not. It's like on Joe Dirt. This ain't UNICEF. It's like it's not a charity. It is a business, and yes, we are trying to make money off of Rock the South, if anyone wonders, because it is how we pay our mortgage, and we are the ones also risking the money, to do the show. So, but we are proud of the charitable things we've been able to do, giving away over $1 million to mostly local charities. We just wrote a check for $250,000 to pave that road right by Rock the South.
Yeah, a lot of people are hating on the county commission and the city for paving those roads, but a lot of people didn't know that you guys put in $250,000 on getting that done out there.
And that's another thing we don't brag about. We didn't put out there to brag. It's because we want to leave it better than we found it. When we first moved that festival there, that road was already horrible. Yeah. And I'm sure the festival didn't help it. So just when that festival's not there, 51 weeks a year, and those people have a better road to drive on, that makes me feel good. It makes me feel proud to know that we've made a positive impact. And then the $20+ million a year in economic impact that it makes on Cullman, something I'm very proud of. Yeah. I think it's directly affected the parks you're seeing and the things where that money goes and how this council and mayor uses that money to make a positive impact on people's lives every week. And there's a lot of people that do that. The local businesses, everybody's chiming in and making Cullman what it is. But to be a part of that makes me happy too.
Yeah, not to mention over the past decade, just how much Cullman's grown the brand, the name of Cullman is
huge.
There's no data on this, I'm sure, but I mean, if you ask everybody in Alabama 10 years ago if they knew where Cullman was versus today, I bet that number's a lot higher today than what it was a decade ago.
Well,
I still feel like we're like a small town people, though.
Well, yeah,
you
we
know
are.
what I mean? Like
Yeah.
living in
Yeah.
a bigger city now.
Yeah. And I think a big part of that is because of what Rock the South's done. People coming from all over the country and the world to come to Cullman.
I think there are a lot of people, a lot of angles, right? We have incredible churches here, have incredible schools, and great parks, great events. I mean, the Cross-Crindle Market was a monster success.
Yeah.
Nathan Anderson is a beast. I mean, he is incredible at what he does. Got a great council mayor. Everybody works hard. I'll say Woody might be one of the hardest working mayors I've ever seen.
Yeah, for sure.
Out there in his boots every day. We are a small town, but I'll say the thing that impresses me the most, the thing I'm most proud of, that we've all been able to do as a community. It's not just about do people know the name Cullman. It's what do they think of when they hear the name Cullman? Because we all know there was a day when people hear the name Cullman, it meant something different.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's changing.
Yeah.
And I feel like our community and police and fire and just so many people that have made it. We have a reputation for something different now. Yeah. And that makes me happy.
And people everywhere, if you ask them what they think of when they hear Cullman, especially in the surrounding area, Decatur, Madison, down the Gardendale, Warrior, Hayden, in those areas, they're going to say growth.
Growth. Yeah. And, of course, there's traffic and there's all those things. I always say with that, though, and we get to do a lot of travel with what we do for a living, any city worth living in has a traffic problem.
Yeah, for sure.
If your town doesn't have a traffic problem,
then there's nobody there.
Then nobody wants to be there. It's just kind of innately part of it. I will say I wish our turning lane was bigger. It's the smallest turning lane in America.
Are you talking about 31?
You'll die right there by
AutoZone.
AutoZone. I don't go that way anymore. I turn
either.
at the one before it by
Everybody
CVS
does.
or Walgreens and do that back road to get to the warehouse district.
But I'll put this disclaimer out there to anybody that hears this. It has nothing to do with the city of Cullman. That is state highway. So
that's true.
Don't blow up Clint Ollingsworth or any of those guys. They got nothing to do with that. That is a state road. But yeah, everybody avoids that turn right there. But anyway, yeah, I'm proud of the town that we all live in. I'm proud of Smith Lake and what Jeff Talbert's doing at Trident, and there's just a lot of great things happening. And I'm excited to for the next 20 years living here.
There's a lot of passionate people in Cullman that want to tell everybody about this community, how great it is.
Yeah.
Well, Cullman Daily, that's kind of been one of the big things I've really wanted to push over, since we started in 2019, is telling people all over the South about Cullman and getting people to come here and see how great of a town we live in.
Yeah, we're, for the last 2 or 3 weeks, we've gone up to Trident on the weekend. I don't know, it's packed. I don't know anybody there. I don't know a soul. I mean,
there's so many out of towners.
Yeah.
I think
so many
now
out of towners, people from everywhere.
I saw you there 2 weeks ago, and then that's the first time I'd been since Jeff had redone everything, and I went back this past weekend because it was great food.
Great,
yeah,
fast. Great. Noe's doing a great job there with the bar, and it's just it's doing a lot for Smith Lake. But yeah, there's just that everywhere. Great small business owners. Look at what Monograms Plush just did with their building and made that area beautiful. What Eddie and Eddie Canaday and Colby and Joseph have done over there. Itzen, with the Cotton Creek building and John Riley. There's just so many people chiming in to make our community better. And I think when you have the public and the private sectors working together in the same direction, it's hard to not grow at that point. It's hard for there not to be people who want to move here, and the crime low and great schools. It's just going to grow. There's no way to stop it. So I think we just work together to make that smart growth and grow in the right direction. Keep Cullman what it is. And not change who we are, but growth is inevitable.
I think what you're doing at the Klein building kind of shows that, because yes, it's new, there's new things there, but you've kept the history of that building and you pay homage to it by talking about Klein Dairy. And also, it's one of my favorite places to eat at, Tzatziki's now.
Yeah.
And it's so cool that Tzatziki's is here, because there's how many Tzatziki's locations, and the founders live here in Cullman.
They live on Smith Lake. There's 110, 115 of them. But
And now we have one here in Cullman.
Yeah, now they have one. And their kids go to St. Bernard.
Yeah.
So they would drive by the Klein all the time, taking their kids to school. But yeah, we love, I'm kind of a sucker for history, and I just love the Klein story. That's a family. You're talking about everybody working together to make the community great. Well, that's 100 years ago. They were doing that, and that we're standing on the shoulders of the Flying 50 and all the people that, just for generations, we're lucky enough to still have Roy Drinkard on the earth, and he was such a massive part of that, and drawing people here, and we're all standing on someone else's shoulders, Now I want people to stand on mine. I want to help other people be successful, and when our employees buy a house or put their kids through college, I mean, I can tell you that is a very proud thing, to see what we're doing make a positive impact on people.
Yeah. And back to the business side of what you guys do in Rock the South, I'm sure there's some big stories of people artists and just people in the music industry who got their start by playing at Rock the South before they were a hit, or even people behind the scenes on different facets at Rock the South.
Yeah, there's been a lot,
Zach Bryan, wasn't?
Yeah, Zach. Yeah.
Zach was. Yeah, we caught him at a really great time. Morgan Wallen, Bailey Zimmerman's very first show of his career was Rock the South. Very first show he ever played. So we've been really blessed to catch him on the way up. And that's been something that, just kind of having your ear to the ground, and honestly just listening to young people, because they'll tell you who's coming up. They'll tell you that Red Clay Strays is about to be a monster band, which they're incredible. And then we saw Tyler Childers. We own the Auburn Rodeo too, and we own I think we own 15 festivals now, maybe 16 across the Southeast. Now that we've basically made a sister festival out of Rock the Country and taking that into small town America all summer long. We've been out in the heat and we've seen it all. 7 different cities with Rock the Country. We'll do 10 next year. We're going to go north on a couple of those. But our partner Kid Rock has been an incredible partner, and he really loved Rock the South when he came and played it in 2019, and felt like it was something that was needed, across the country. So we went into places like Missouri and Louisiana and Florida and Kentucky, the Carolinas, and we'll do those next year. But we'll also go up to Pennsylvania and Michigan. You find there's good old country people up there too. You never dream that, but they are.
That's another cool thing about Rock the South, how it started here a decade ago, and now small towns all over the country are getting to experience the same thing.
They are
major artists.
Yeah. We'll if we're not already, we're probably the largest producer of country festivals in America now, and it all started right here in Cullman. And so with that, we're excited to raise money for local charities there. We're excited to partner with the cities and economic development offices, and see the same level of impact in those cities that we have in Cullman. And meet a lot of new people, a lot of new faces. It's just there's so many new friends that we've been able to meet, through this thing.
What's it like hanging out with Kid Rock? I gotta know this.
Man,
this is like a trip.
He.
I love his views.
Yeah, I love Kid Rock.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of have two different people. You got Kid Rock, and then you got Bob Ritchie. Bob Ritchie's his real name. And Bob,
he does not look like a Bob to me either.
No.
He looks like Kid Rock. Like, you can't tell me any different.
When his agent put us together, he's like, I want Shane. If I'm going to work with Shane, I want to bring him to my lake house in northern Michigan, the one he sings about all summer long. And I want to get to know him. He said, before I go and build a multi-million-dollar festival company around the country. I just need to know who he is. And so I went up to his house, and we flew in his airplane, the one that's got a bird, shooting the bird on the tail of the thing. And I laugh. I tell people I got my tetanus shot, and I flew north. But, I had this picture of what it would be like. And, like I said, I'm an introvert. I'm pretty square when it comes to, partying. And, I'll party hard with you as long as you can stop by 9 p.m., I'm good. After that, I turn into mush. But honestly, it was very chill. He's an incredible person.
He seems like he'd just be so cool to hang out with.
So do you call him Bob?
I call him Bob.
Do you?
Oh yeah, I don't call him.
Well, what
Kid
would you
Rock.
call him otherwise? Would you say Mr. Kid?
Yeah,
Or
Mr. Rock.
Mr. Rock? Mr. Rock?
Yeah. But yeah, he's actually an incredible partner. He's one of the few artists that I know is up at 5 a.m. Most artists sleep late, and are up late. But not him. He's very regimented. He wakes up, does a cold plunge, plays pickleball, does his meetings, goes to the studio. He's an incredibly hard worker. It's obvious, he's been successful a very long time. But those values and the things he's for are really him. They really are. And I think he has kind of two sides. He can eat beanie weenies and bologna, but then he also is, has one of the nicest homes I've ever seen in my life at the Southern White House. You can Google that. Beautiful house there in North Nashville. His cabin up at his lake in the lakes in Michigan was just really cool. But he's an incredible guy, great partner, all in with us, and very excited about doing this festival. That's a festival for the people. At Rock the Country, we do the Pledge of Allegiance. We're going to do that at Rock the South this year too. We really felt like we needed to bring that Rock the Country thing, a national anthem and a prayer and a cross and all the things that we hold near and dear, to us. And I know some people have a hard time with the juxtaposition of that with beer and the Hawk-Tuah girl and the controversial things, But I would just say to that is we want all people to come to this. And if somebody has a hard time with those kind of people, I would say come to the festival and make an impact on those people.
Yeah.
We're not afraid of it. We do think there'll be thousands of young people that, that did follow her that'll come to the event, so yeah, we're promoters at the end of the day and just trying to spread the word. And that was one way. I know that was a little controversial locally, but I think that, who we are as people is, will stand even through that, But we definitely, when people come to Rock the South this year, they're going to hear about the charities. They're going to hear about what we believe as a nation. And there will be a big moment with God Bless the USA. And hopefully people's pride and hope will be restored for the future. I feel like in the last couple of weeks, man, especially the last couple of days, I think we're starting to feel like, God's not done with this country and that it's going to get back on track, and I'm not saying one man can do that, but I would definitely say that people feel better today than we did a week ago about the future.
Definitely.
I feel like even the weather Saturday, I felt like it was just like the September 11th feel again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where it's like, I cannot believe this just happened. But like,
it did feel like 9/11.
It really did. Since 9/11, that's the first thing that I've really just been like, oh my gosh, people will go to the extent of anything if they're worried they're going to lose. I mean, that's how far people will go.
Yeah, yeah.
I
was sitting in my store and then
life.
somebody I got on refresh Twitter right when it happened, and at first I thought he was dead.
He's dead.
When I first started watching the video, because there wasn't any reports of it yet, and I just saw where they're sharing the clip of the live stream.
We had a discussion.
Crazy. I mean,
we had a discussion in the living room last night about what if it had killed him? Yeah. The difference in the morale. It could have been very ugly. I mean,
we might would have been in a war with
who
each
knows,
other,
man? Who knows? It would have been ugly. It would have been an ugly time in our life. But instead, obviously, that man died, and that was horrible. and
the
and
guy
the stories that are
spectator.
coming out about him being a great human
The one
being,
that saved his daughter.
saved his
basically.
daughter as a
He
hero,
shielded his family.
Yeah. So you just feel like, maybe God's not done with the country. And so at this year, we're just going to really lean into that and lean into the things that we do agree on as people, versus what we don't agree on. But yeah, we're excited. We're out, the team's out there working right now, in the heat, trying to make this thing the best they can. And we'll see people from all over the country here this weekend.
Yeah, we're excited. Over the years, I know you guys have invested a lot into the property. What's some things that's changed over the past few years out where you guys have the festival? I know after the rain a few years ago, you guys put a lot into making sure and the padding the
Yeah,
dirt
there's
and
probably been
everything
over $1
down.
million worth of gravel put in there.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, we were on a pasture. We were on a cow pasture, and when you put a lot of people on a cow pasture and it rains, and it's not a good result, Typically at festivals, you either have a dust problem or a mud problem.
Yeah.
It's normally one of the two. And so keeping that balance of dust versus mud, the hardest work I think any of us have ever done in our lives is when it rained at this festival. But it's been very worth it. But yeah, we've put a lot into it. We built the front porch last year, so we didn't have to keep building that, every single year. So that's permanent. Water lines, drainage, there's been quite a bit of investment in the property, well over $1 million. And we spend more money every single year to get it to where it's people have a positive show, a fun time, and not get mud on their shoes.
Yeah, it's definitely over the years, you can definitely see a lot of improvements that's happened out there. Speaking of President Trump, with the festival moving out to that property, that opened the door to 45th president being able to come here to Cullman and have one of his biggest rallies up the street
of his career.
That would have never happened without what Rock the South's done.
Yeah, that was wild. When we got that phone call from the state guys, it was a huge event. It actually showed us what the venue could hold. There was so many people there. We learned a lot about traffic from that event. But yeah, we were honored to have a president on that property with the Yorks. The York family owns that property, and they're just incredible landlords. But working together with them, and obviously the city and the state, and Secret Service, and
that was crazy. I remember because we're on the state executive committee too, when people started talking, saying that he was going to come to Cullman. I was like, "There's no way,
no way."
I asked the chairman, and he was like, "Yeah, it's between Cullman, Tuscaloosa, and there was another city they were looking at after Mobile was canceled on him."
They talked about going to Talladega or something.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
It was Cullman, Talladega, or Tuscaloosa.
Yeah.
And I remember a few days before, they was like, "Yep, it's over." They're going to do it somewhere else. They said it was going to be in Tuscaloosa or something. And then all of a sudden, it changed.
It was hectic,
and they're coming to Cullman.
Get it all to come together was very hectic, but I'm glad it did. That was, that's just a memory we'll always have. But yeah, he came, and I would say Katie Britt. It was a big moment for her.
Yeah, it was.
It was a big moment for her at Rock the South too. And we're always excited to get the delegates, the Adderholtz and the Congress and the Senate guys there, and I think a lot of relationships among those politicians happen, friendships that are made, and hopefully is making a positive impact on Cullman when they go to Montgomery and fight to get us things. I think there's a big hurrah moment for that. It's almost like a family reunion every year for a lot of people. So yeah, it means a lot to us. We like I said, we take it on the chin, from some of the locals about it. But there's so many redeeming things about the festival that makes it worth it for us.
Yeah. How do you guys deal with that as far as the amount of controversy or people talking negative about the festival, and how do you guys work through all the haters having to say about everything?
Oh, I got one hater I know personally.
Yeah.
And he's always on there saying traffic's terrible.
Oh,
traffic. Because one time I just said, why? Because he was like, I hate Rock the South, blah, blah. I'm like, why? Oh, it's traffic. Too many people. You live in Holly Pond, brother.
Right.
You live on the other end of the county.
Yeah.
You're the furthest thing from Rock the South. Stay out of town this weekend.
Yeah, it's like it's fun to have an opinion about it. Like if there's a restaurant in town that you don't like their food. Maybe you don't like Chinese food. Do you get online every day and talk about how you don't want to go to that restaurant? It just doesn't make sense to me. It's like if you don't like it, don't go. If there's a movie at the theater you don't want to watch, you just don't go watch it. It's like everybody does, everybody has an opinion in some kind of way, for it or against it. But dealing with the hate, look, you're not made out of steel, so things do bother you. I just try a lot of times to not read the comments, because that's where a lot of those things live. But I got friends that, and I'm doing my best to just not watch it. And I got friends that'll take a snapshot of it and send it to. Can you believe he said it? It's like, thank you. Now I'm sick the rest of the day. You ruined my day. Don't send me things like that. I know that, there's people that say things.
But then they'll be the same ones that's at the concert.
But here,
There was this one person that they were on there saying a bunch of things about Haley Welch being at Rock the South and some other stuff too. And literally the next day, because we had done some of the giveaways with you guys, they messaged and asked us if we could get them some tickets.
That's amazing.
Crazy. I've talked to store people around here, like store owner. Like I know I've been shopping for my wife.
Yeah.
Stephen talked to them like, "You been busy?" And they'll tell you Rock the South weekend is 10 times busier than Black Friday.
Yeah. We got some
I mean,
people
they're like,
that
we're employees all on deck. We do great.
Yeah. There's so many people here.
Mm-hmm. And very few. You don't see a whole lot of people stealing or.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I think it's really good.
Yeah.
People don't think about that though. Jack's Western Wear probably
Makes so
sells
much
out
money.
almost.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
There's people that
they probably got boots in the
the
back.
gas stations, the hotels, obviously, and Tabitha and that group over on 157. Here's the thing. When I worked at Louisiana Pacific and Kmart, and I lived in Hanceville with my grandma when I was poor, I had no haters. No one talked trash. Maybe there's a few, right, that didn't like the way I played drums or something. But I had no haters then. Nobody was on Facebook talking trash about me. So if you're going to be successful at all, you're going to have people talk negatively about you. The thing I think that bothers me the most about that is if they're paying attention to my life and they're worried about my life, then they're not watching their own life. And they're just wasting their life and their time on earth. Like I said, when I lost my brother when I was 15, the urgency to do something with my days, every day that I wake up, has been there. That fire is still there. It's been a long time since that happened. But I want to have massive goals in my life, and I'm going to chase them. And I'm not going to keep looking back at people that may have an opinion about me and slowing me down from becoming one of the biggest promoters in the world and becoming one of the biggest real estate guys in this city, in this state, and traveling to the cities that I want to around the world and see the places and putting my kids through college and funding my son's record. The things that I want to do is what I'm interested in. And if somebody has an opinion, call me. If you really want to talk about it, why don't you change this? Why don't you change that? But just typing it on Facebook is ridiculous. I've only had one human being ever really come to me and with a real problem with Rock the South to my face in my office. But I've had hundreds, talk about it on Facebook. Yeah. So there are some people in my life that if they had a negative thing about anything that I do, I'd listen because they've made an impact on my life. My rule used to be this: if you don't know my son's birthday, then I don't care what your opinion is about me. If you don't know my son's name, then I don't care what your opinion is about me, because you don't know me and you've never spent time with me. So you got to let those guys just kind of do their own thing and not spend time on it if you can. You got to have thick skin. But if you are going to be successful, you're going to have it. Like I said, nobody was on Facebook talking trash about me when I was working in a factory for 9 years. I gave my 20s to a wood mill. And it made me who I am. It taught me how to work, taught me how to love people and to teamwork and all the things we learned there. But I've worked my butt off, and I still do. And I'm proud of what we've been able to, to do. But let the haters hate, and we'll get up and work every day. And
Yeah, that's kind of how I look at it too. Like I said earlier, just as long as I know what my intention is and behind the things we're doing, that's all. That's all I got to look at.
That's the main thing, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, Winston Churchill says that you have enemies. That's good. That means you stood up for something sometime in your life.
I love that.
Yeah. And another quote that I love is, you can only speak into someone's life as much as you're in their life.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so I love what you said about, if someone gives you an opinion on something, you're only going to let it bother you a little bit, or even not at all, depending on how close they are to you.
Right.
If they know your son's name and his birth date, both of them, then it's like, okay, this is someone that's in my life, and I'm going to value that opinion.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's like a surface glance. It's just, it might rattle you for a second and be like, oh, I can't believe they said that. But then you're moving on. You've got bigger things to do.
I'm a people pleaser. I do like to make people happy, and so it's, but yeah, you get your tight circle, and you got your people that love you, people that you love, and let those people have an opinion, because they'll come to you, and they'll sit down with you, and have a big boy conversation with you if you're doing something that you shouldn't be doing. But yeah, man, I'm very excited to, for this year, for next year. We're already booking next year. We'll do 10 Rock the Countries and Rock the South. We're already working that angle. But yeah, with the festival, we're one of the things that we really found through Rock the Country was, really leaning into that patriotic side of all of us. We felt like that our events needed to go that direction, just to help restore, hopefully, a little bit of hope. When you get on YouTube or on our Facebook or anything, Instagram for Rock the Country, and you go back and look at some of the videos. My wife, Laura, she went out. We were at our first show in Gonzales, first Rock the Country in Gonzales, and we decided we wanted to do God Bless the USA, and DJ Silver was playing it, and the unity of people waving flags and singing God Bless the USA was such a powerful moment. And I told Laura, I said, go back and go back and capture that real quick. And she did, and we posted it. Trump reshared it. So many people. It's been looked at tens of millions of times.
I think Dan Scavino might have shared that.
He shared
Twitter.
it.
Yeah, I saw that.
But it was in that moment, really. And we had Tucker Carlson there that night too, and we had a lighting tower. That there was a spotlight tower, and the guy that built it just kind of built it a little bit too high. The center post, he built it too high, and so the lighting tower that went across it was a little lower than normal, and it looked like a cross. And Tucker Carlson, when he got done speaking, he hit, he elbowed me in the side and said, "Good touch on the cross." And I looked at my business partner, Nathan. I said, "Holy crap. What if we make that thing a cross?" And it was just by an accident. And that cross will be at Rock the South. But it is kind of reminding people that the true hope, and this is what we believe, but the true hope for America is Jesus. It's not even Donald Trump. Trump would tell you that. Now, he does use men and women, to get us there, but the hope is our faith, And so there is that moment. And, growing up in the church, I went to seminary. A lot of people don't even know that. It's like how, I've had just a few people. Most people get it. Most people see the positive impact is that you got a lot of people there that came for the wrong reasons. But at some point in that night, we're going to pray in Jesus' name. And we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance, which a lot of these people haven't done the Pledge of Allegiance since they were in 6th grade.
That's
And
me.
you know what I mean?
I mean, it's been a long time.
It's been a long time since people put their
I still
hand on their
remember it.
heart
I know it
and did the
would.
Pledge of Allegiance together. And when you see tens of thousands of people do the pledge, it is a powerful moment. And and so those are the elements that we've learned out on Rock the Country, is that, man, we need to help restore people's faith in our country and our unity in each other, and and restore our hope and in our faith, all while they're drinking beer and singing country songs. Like I said, the juxtaposition of those two things. But we do feel called to do it. So hopefully, when people do leave, they'll remember some of these things, and it'll bring them closer to God. It'll bring them, closer to each other, and realize the hope that we have as Americans, as Christians, as Alabamians and Cullmanites and our neighbors. So those are the things that make us get out of bed, and make us really, it's a lot of work to do these things, and a lot of money risked every single year. A significant amount of money risked, that makes it hard to sleep, but you learn to sleep. And but these things, those are the things that make you really proud of what you do. Proud of the team too, man. I can't even sit here and talk about all these things without talking about the Kristas and the Randys and the Michael Chandlers and this deep list of people that work their tails off to do these
make it
things.
happen.
People out in the road, the people in the parking lots, the Masons that they're on stage, a Cullman boy, that are just, they dedicated their life to this. And, so I would just tell people, when you do spew hate, and you don't, you're talking about a lot of great people. If you don't like me, even if you don't like me, those are some of the best people I've ever known, so, but I'm proud to call them family, proud to, Krista DeBrule was, has been one of my best friends, for many years, and Michael Pugh, just great human beings, that kind of make this company what it is.
With a great team, I know there's been a lot of stuff happen behind the scenes, that you guys have to take care of during Rock the South over the past decade. What's some of the craziest stuff that's happened, that you guys have had to deal with?
That you can talk about, because there's probably a lot you can't talk about.
There's been some crazy stories. We had when we were still at Heritage Park, I had a meltdown. I've had a few meltdowns at Rock the South, because it's, like I said, there's a lot of pressure. You're at home, all this stuff. It was a year it rained. We had Skinnerd on stage. And, as a kid growing up listening to Leonard Skinnerd, and being a drummer, being in, garage bands, playing, those Simple Man and, Sweet Home Alabama and all these songs, to bring them to Cullman was like a dream, big dream. To bring Alabama here, to bring Skinnerd here, we're all just big dreams. And when Skinnerd was on stage playing Sweet Home Alabama, I was up to my knees in mud, 2 blocks from the event, watching the rain come down, seeing all these cars parked in a parking lot that I was sure they would never get out, that they were going to be stranded, that there were hundreds of cars, and I'm standing out there screaming at everybody on the radio, "Get out here now, this is Armageddon." I literally said the word Armageddon. And that kind of got some attention, and we figured it out, and we put some gravel down and got them out. But now, for almost 10 years, anytime I'm, yelling about something's important, the team will say, "Well, is it important or is it Armageddon?" And so I have to live with the Armageddon line, for the rest of my life. Because I will say there were some explicitives before the word Armageddon.
So if you say Armageddon, does that mean that they know to
They know.
rush?
They
Get
know.
there
Shane's
immediately?
having a meltdown.
That's the not safe word.
That's yeah. We gotta figure it out. There's been so many stories, man, about people like the girl that climbed the pole that time, and she looked like she'd been working at Wesley's Booby Trap. And, that was our first or second year. And there's just been hilarious moments,
There's one time I remember, I can't remember what year it was, when y'all had the hay bales and y'all made the pools
pool,
with the
yeah.
plastic or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
I was like, only Cullman County, baby. Like,
Yes.
I was proud of that because I've made like truck bed
Oh, yeah.
pools before.
Yeah.
Where you go get the plastic, you fill your truck bed up with water.
There's been a lot of
was
talk
like,
about the
that's
hay
cool,
pool
man.
over the years, and that water, that was in there, it's just something you don't want to get near. But, look,
But I was like, this is like redneck ingenuity. They want people to be comfortable out there.
Yes.
Sit in these
They got
things.
in there though, man.
I know, yeah.
Yeah,
I
they
saw
enjoyed
pictures.
it and cooled off. Maybe we'll bring it back one day.
There you go.
But if so, I need you to be the lifeguard.
I'll get my stand and my whistle. And
Oh, yeah.
a little bit of sunscreen on my nose.
There's been a lot of tomfoolery, at this festival, and it's a lot of laughs. We give each other a hard time. I mean that Louisiana Pacific poke at each other culture is at Rock the South behind the scenes, and it's funny. But when all heck breaks loose and you need them, they're there. They're out in the road. They're making miracles happen. I call them my redneck angels. The redneck angels come when you need them, and they come flying in on their chariots, which is a gator or a side by side of some sort, and they get it done, man. We were in Poplar Bluff 2 weeks ago, and they had 5 inches of rain the day before the festival, and it was the most horrific scene for a festival I've ever seen in my life. And pulling that thing together is one of the proudest moments, I think, of my career, of seeing everybody. We rented 40 acres of land within 12 hours of the rain and built a road to it so they could park. I mean, like, you just overcoming things. This team has had so many crazy curveballs that from storms to rain to dust to accidents, this horrible things and great things and nature, but they band together, come together, and do something really big. And to be sitting there at 2 a.m. on a Saturday night after Rock the South's finally over, sitting on the floor of a trailer, having a Bud Light or a Coors Light, whatever your political leaning is, and you just realize that you just did something really big, and it's a big moment. It's almost like being in a gym after you just won the county tournament or something. It's special, and I long for it. I long for it every year, and every weekend we get to do a festival. But there's just so many of them. I wish I could name them all, but a lot of them have been with us for over a decade, and their family to us, and they take off from their jobs that week to be there, and every single year. So it's fun, man. We have a lot of help, a lot of people, a lot of council and mayors and commissioners and sheriffs and Culpeppers and Matt Gentry, and so many people have been a massive part. All the police officers that sit out in that road and burn up, in the rescue and the medical and this fire, volunteer fire departments, and it's just a crazy amount of people that come together to make it happen. It's a monstrous undertaking, and I'm very grateful for all those people.
Of all I know we talked a little bit about Kid Rock earlier, but of all the artists you had at Rock the South or people you've got to meet through it, who's the most unique or interesting personality? Probably
Zach Bryan. He spent the day on the lake with us the day before the festival, and we brought him out to Smith Lake, and Brett Kreider and Stephanie, taught him how to surf, and he was jumping off rocks on that lake that no one had ever jumped off of. He was in the Navy for 10 years. And the guy has no fear at all. I smoked him in pool pretty bad in my basement. Had him down $2,000 at one time, and then I scratched on the 8-ball on purpose because artists can't be paying me. I got to pay the artist. Even my son cut his eyes at me when he saw me scratch. But that was fun. It was just, Zach Bryan was awesome. I think I love Eric Church probably as much as any of them. He's just a man's man, But we've had some great ones over the years. Morgan Wallen, there's been a lot of great ones and been a pleasure to work with. Some of them are, pretty tough to work with, but we've had a blast. Kid Rock was a big year for Rock the South. I think when you ask the average annual attendee, they'll tell you that their favorite, a lot of them will tell you that their favorite was Kid Rock.
Yeah.
Maybe,
I was there that
maybe
year.
we can get him back.
He was a great one.
Yeah.
He's a great performer.
Great performer. Maybe we'll get him back. You never know.
Is there any final thoughts or anything you want to give on for the concert this week? Or
Keep on keeping on.
Yeah, man.
I'm proud of you, dude. I really am.
Thank you.
I use you as an inspiration to a lot of people that work with me, come in to work with me. I'm like, let me tell this story about this guy. You know what I'm saying? That's like, I don't know. I use you a lot of times to, especially like tell people, man, you can do anything you want to if you just put your time into it. You know?
Thank you,
Yeah,
man.
Well, you're
Means a
welcome.
lot.
I mean, you're an inspiration. You really are.
Well,
but I use you most of the time to tell people. I'm like, look, let me tell you about this guy. You know.
I think you also you help people dream. You really do. I said this to Jacob before he started, and I said this to you the other day, that I listened to the episode that you two have on Jacob's podcast, and you asked Jacob what his biggest dream was, and it was to get Butterbean on the show. The next episode, I was working out at the time, so I finished my workout, or I was about to finish, and the next episode just started playing, and he said, "I'm so excited to have Butterbean on the show." And I went, and I just checked. I'm like, the next episode after telling the dream,
Yeah.
it made it happen.
You told me to go after him, and I did. And it
Manifestation. It's just a big part of my life. I'll tell a quick story.
yeah.
So we were doing a tour called Outcries, Christian tour with the biggest worship bands in the world, and we were in Chicago, and we were in a room like a pre-show get together and a prayer, and there's probably 50, 60 people in the room, and I challenged everybody. I said, somebody stand up and say a dream out loud that you've always had that you've never told anybody. And I've done that a lot over the years, and a couple people stood up. One girl named Brittany from South Carolina stood up, and she was managing one of the bands that was in the room. So she's very brave to say something like this in front of her employer, But she said that she had a dream to work at the Olympics. She says, like, there was just something, the spirit of the Olympics just gets me every year. And she said, me and my dad sit and watch the Olympics every 4 years. And she said, being an event person to work in the Olympics somewhere in the world would be a dream come true. And she sat down and we went on about her business. And a month later, I'm flying home from New York. And it was that one direct flight, from LaGuardia to Birmingham. And I was on the front of the plane. I sat next to a guy, an older gentleman. And, and people that fly all the time, you're not supposed to talk to each other. I mean, that's like men don't talk to each other in the bathroom, and you don't talk to the person next to you on an airplane. It's just kind of normal. But I sat next to this older gentleman. He's probably in his late 70s, early 80s. And he had a black notebook sitting in his lap, flat. And I'm just doing my thing. I'm listening to my music, doing all the rituals I have to do to get myself through going 400 miles an hour, 30,000 feet, which is still something that I have a hard time with as much as I fly. But I noticed on the front of that notebook a stamp in the leather of the Olympic logo. And I saw it. I kept thinking, it's like, why does he have an Olympic notepad? And so somewhere halfway through the flight, halfway from LaGuardia to Birmingham, I tapped on his shoulder and I said, "Hey man, what's the Olympic logo about?" He said, well, I've worked for the Olympics for 40 years. And he said, I live in Birmingham, but I've been in charge of hiring the back of house staff for the Olympics for 40 years. And so I said, hey, I want to tell you about a girl named Brittany. And Brittany and this guy's been talking to each other for 7 years, and Brittany's going to work the Olympics. But that putting it out and telling other people is the reason why that happened.
Wow.
If she had never said that day, then I would have just seen the Olympic logo and kept listening to Pearl Jam in my ears. I would have never thought anything about it. But that's why it's so important to put it out into the world, something that you want to do. because what a lot of people don't realize is there's a lot of people that would be willing to help you if they knew that's what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
But if you don't tell them and it stays in this right side of your brain and never comes out of your mouth or never gets written down on a notepad, then the odds of it happening are significantly lower. Jacob would tell you, I told everybody in that factory I was going to be a concert promoter, and they knew it. And they knew it, and putting myself out on the line like that to actually do it just put more pressure on me, knowing that they knew about it and they were for me and they wanted, but telling others about it is a big thing. I would say that would be my closing remarks, is if there's something in your life that you want to do or go or give or whatever it is, put it out. Tell somebody about it. And
Never be afraid to dream.
Never be afraid.
Never know who's listening, just like what he's just saying. You
never know. Yeah. You just don't. So, but I'm honored to be here today and be able to tell a little bit of our story, and having one of my close friends here that's a big part of my story. And just thank y'all for what you do. Thank you for taking it on the chin like we do every once in a while, being able to.
That's our job.
That's our job. Somebody's got to be a punching bag.
Yeah, somebody has to take it.
It's all good.
Well, we appreciate y'all being on. We look forward to this week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Yeah.
18th through the 20th, I believe.
Yeah, come on out.
We're excited to be there and
It's going
excited
to cool off, it looks like. So
Yeah,
hopefully the rain will stay away.
You got more events too with Rock the Country, right?
We
When
do,
are those-
yeah.
what are
And the
those
weekend
dates?
after Rock the South, we've got Rock the Country in Anderson, South Carolina. So no rest for the weary. We'll be in South Carolina the next weekend with probably the biggest show of our career.
Really?
Yeah, it's a really, really big show. Jason Aldean, Kid Rock, a bunch of them. But yeah,
Awesome.
And I can't wait for these patriotic moments in light of what we just went through. I think it's going to be a beautiful, beautiful thing. So wear your red, white, and blue and come on out.
Yeah, we can't wait to be there.